I don't know what everyone is talking about. This game is great.
They're coming for us! No! That hurts. Oh.
Might be game of the year. Okay, but seriously, as much as you'd want me to rag on this game, and I'd probably get more views for doing so, I actually kind of liked this game. But I have absolutely no reason to lie to you guys, so if you're just looking for somebody who's making a video to hate on it, this won't be the video for you. Okay, let's get into it. When Star Wars Outlaws was first announced, gamers were up in arms about it for some reason. Maybe it's because it was being made by Ubisoft, maybe it's because the price point was outrageous, because it was being made by Ubisoft, and the system requirements for the PC port are higher than my parents' expectations of me. And yeah, those are actually pretty valid concerns. But gamers had issues with like the main character, and I don't see the big deal. He's cute, he's cuddly, and he kind of looks like an axolotl. What's not to love? Oh, you mean the girl? What are you, stupid? That's not the main character. It's like maybe half of the main character, but this is Nyx. He can fetch things, open things, attack bad guys, and use eagle vision from Assassin's Creed. And if he's doing most of the work in the game, he's the main character in my heart. So I was given a key to play this from Ubisoft because otherwise I would not have spent $70 on this myself, mostly because I don't have $70. So thanks to Ubisoft for providing me access to this game. They actually gave me the Ultimate Edition, so that was a treat. But what does that exactly mean? Well, it comes with pre-order cosmetic bonuses for your vehicles, your outfits, and your weapons. It has the Season Pass that won't come out for another several months, you know, besides the Jabba the Hutt mission that actually has nothing to do with Jabba the Hutt, but I will get to that. And 3-day early access, which means nothing to me when I had the game 10 days early. But those aren't what's exclusive to the Ultimate Edition. The Ultimate Edition comes with an art book, which is always a fun little bonus, and other cosmetics that I didn't realize I had until 4 hours into the game when I found this delivery box on my ship. But that doesn't concern most people, so let's jump into the gameplay to see what this game is really about. And before we even begin, there's a ton of useful accessibility options available right away, and also turn off motion blur. Why does every game feel the need to have the most obnoxious motion blur? And there's 4 different difficulties to play that can never just be called easy, medium, or hard anymore, because games need to be funny. And then the game tries to get you to play in this cinematic ultra widescreen for some reason, and it really only looks good if you have an ultra wide monitor, so yeah, we're gonna turn that off too. And the basis of the story is this. You play as a scoundrel named Kay and her little pet something named Nyx. Because every character requires a cute animal sidekick now, it's the rules. And you start off by robbing this billionaire that for all intents and purposes, I'm just gonna call Mark Cuban. After a failed attempt though, you scour the galaxy tracking down specialists to get a better crew together and try to rob him again. And of course mayhem ensues, so it's never as straightforward as it should be. It's basically that stretch of episodes in Andor where they had that plot to go heist something from the Empire. And if this game is even half as good as Andor, that's pretty darn good. But seriously, I thought the story was really well done and I got completely sucked into it. There's a fun cast of characters like Bosnok, the disembodied head that you rescue from an Imperial ship, and then you free him and kick his ass at gambling.
Yeah, don't get a big head about it.
Ankh, who is this tiny bat girl that just loves explosives. She's basically Rico from the Madagascar movies.
Kaboom.
And then ND5, who is this robot guy that helps you throughout the game. He's firm, but fair, and just all around a great guy, probably. And of course, what would a Star Wars game be without just a little bit of fan service, right? With the Hutts being one of the major crime syndicates in the story, you do come face to face with Jabba the Hutt. And I know what you're thinking, but Reddit told me that the Jabba the Hutt mission is locked behind the season pass. And while that's technically true, we're gonna blame Ubisoft's poor marketing for this one. Without needing the season pass, there is a mission that takes you inside and around Jabba's palace, where you do a bunch of stuff that is fan service and huge spoilers, so I'm not gonna show you it, but it's really awesome, trust me. For a minute, I actually thought this was the season pass mission. That is until I got a trophy for it and realized it's part of the story. And then after the story, I did end up going and doing that DLC Jabba the Hutt mission, and that was basically just talking to Jabba on the cell phone and then running around a couple planets collecting something for him. So you're not actually missing anything from not having the season pass. All of that Jabba the Hutt fan service stuff is in the game. And all I'm saying is that while you're in there, it's pretty obvious that the time frame this takes place in is between episode 5 and episode 6, and that's all I'm gonna say. But there's so many more surprise characters that show up, and if you know, then you know. Okay, but what else? One of the big draws to this game is its emphasis on factions and the relationships the main character makes with them. The 3 main factions are the Pike Syndicate, the Crimson Dawn, and the Hutt Cartel. The easiest way to think of this is like, remember Pokemon Go? They had the red team and the blue team that everybody loved. And then there was the yellow team. Yeah, the Hutts are the yellow team, because at any given opportunity to double cross them, I just couldn't help myself. So all of that is true until you get to a new planet and they introduce a 4th faction. So really it's more like Avatar: The Last Airbender with the 4 nations, and the Hutts are like those weird waterbenders. And then the Zerikbesh are introduced. So picture the characters in Scooby. Each faction quest that you do will give you favor with that faction, but many times that will also make you less favorable for another. Gaining trust with each faction is important so that they're not immediately pulling blasters on you when you decide to steal from them later. But you don't actually have to do any of the faction quests if you don't want to. However, without spoiling anything, the ending does change a bit depending on whether or not you're in good favor with some of them. But I'll tell you what, the world building feels immersive. Like the streets are filled with people living their lives and having conversations, and you can overhear them to learn secrets or even just learn about the world.
You wanna buy some death sticks?
These streets genuinely feel lived in, and I love the amount of detail put into them. But how about the actual gameplay itself? The game really likes to put you in a groove of being a scoundrel. The first mission has you sneak into a nightclub, steal something, and then escape. The second mission is breaking into Mark Cuban's mansion, stealing something, and then you escape. Later in the game, you sneak into an Old Republic ship, steal something, and then escape. But really, you can play it how you want. There is almost always a way to sneak around, but if you want to go guns a-blazing, you usually can. But gathering information and using it to your advantage is a huge part of each mission. There's usually a way to parkour around, and the parkour does feel a lot like Jedi Fallen Order, just minus the Force. And the gunplay is alright too. It feels natural to fire from behind cover and move up when the enemy forces are down. And it strikes a nice balance. Like if there's just 1 or 2 enemies, you feel confident enough to take them down easily. Get him, Nix! Get him! Get him in the face! But when there's like 20, you're not gonna get very far alone. Your blaster doesn't deal the most damage at first, but that can be fixed with upgrades or simply just by picking up another gun. There's also this adrenaline meter that fills up during combat, and when it's full, you can do that thing from Red Dead Redemption 2. But the most interesting part, in my opinion, is all of the ways that the gameplay is changed up. For instance, when you're breaking into anywhere, you use your hacking tool and try to line up the beeps. It's very rhythm based, and I always had fun doing these whenever they came up, which is basically every mission, so it comes up a lot. The other one is when you try to splice into a computer and the game makes you play Wordle. Like, that's not a joke. You have to guess the sequence of symbols to formulate the password, and it'll tell you if you got one right and if it's in the right place or not. But then they have all of these other things that you can just do for fun, like gambling. There's actually this guy that keeps losing that you can give money to in order to keep feeding his gambling addiction, but then he wins and then actually gives you that money back. And I cannot stress enough, this is not how it works in the real world. Do not do this. There's also this card game named Sabacc that's like Texas Hold'em, except for the fact that it's nothing like Texas Hold'em. I'm pretty sure this is the same game that you see them playing in solo. It is a ton of fun to play, and you can work your way up playing against some of the biggest scoundrels in the galaxy. And that's definitely not a nod to more fan service. And even though this game feels like that it would have a skill tree, it doesn't. Instead, you unlock new abilities by completing specific challenges and collecting items, which I think is a fun and unique take that's different from other open world games. And there's also these arcade cabinets that have a couple mini games you can play, and they're very hard for some reason. Like the original Mario wasn't even this hard, but the one that stuck out to me the most was being able to order food, which doesn't sound like a very big deal. But when you eat the food, you go through a series of QuickTime events that just lasts way too long. And there isn't even a punishment for missing the QuickTime event, it'll just replay it and give you another chance. Like, wouldn't it be funny though if maybe you missed the food with your mouth or accidentally stabbed the guy next to you with your fork? But what I like about it is that it shows that quality time that your main character has with Nix. You get to see their bond and how much they really connect. and that's just not something that's given enough time in a lot of games. So hopefully all the jokes I'm making don't overshadow the fact that, yeah, I do like this game. I had a ton of fun, I loved the characters, the story, and the gameplay. But that doesn't mean it's perfect though. It's an Ubisoft game, so of course it's going to have issues, and I will put them on blast. And I think one of the biggest ones has to be the voices. Not that there's anything wrong with the voice acting, because I think the voice actors did a great job. But whoever was supposed to animate the mouths just did not match the lip movement at all.
Born on the wrong side of the galaxy.
After the job's done, your death mark will be gone. As promised, you'll have a future again.
The whole game looks like that. The music is just way too loud until you turn it down, and the audio mixing didn't really help it sound authentic either. Like, you could tell all of these voices were recorded in a booth, and you don't feel like you're hearing it in a cantina, or on a spaceship, or out in the desert. Except for ND5 because, well, he's a robot and he's always gonna sound like that.
I calculated a 30% chance that you'd get me killed, and 93% that I'd be forced to shoot you.
And that's why he's one of my favorite characters. And as seen at the beginning of this video, there are a couple funny bugs and glitches. None that ever got in the way of my gameplay, but they were funny. But still, no excuses, it's okay to demand better quality. And the amount of weapons that you get in the game is pretty limited. Your blaster does have 3 different settings, so at least there's that, but any other weapon has to be picked up off of a body, and it can't be carried with you if you go up a ladder or interact with anything else. It also has a limited shot count, so after you fire it a little bit, you can't use it anymore. So this has the exact same rules as Lego Indiana Jones, which is also a Lucasfilms game, so it all makes sense. But outside of that, I don't think I really had any other problems with it. The internet, however, had many other problems with it, which is crazy because they haven't even played the game yet. So I wanted to take some time to cover those and either validate them or debunk them. For instance, someone didn't like that the AI was too dumb, and yeah, the AI is pretty dumb, granted, but AI is dumb in like every video game. Well, besides Alien Isolation. So if you want your enemies to shoot back, just up the difficulty. Another complaint is that people don't like playing as a woman. Yeah, okay, I guess. Because only boys like video games. And any interesting story that's ever happened has happened to a boy. And boys rule and girls drool. But I guess in their defense, people wanted to be able to create their own character, so that's totally understandable. But at the same time, the writers had a story built for this specific character and wanted to tell this specific character's story. It's almost like people have never played Tomb Raider, or Control, or The Last of Us Part 2, or Horizon Zero Dawn, or that one part of Resident Evil 4, or others were upset that there's only 4 explorable planets and each planet can be crossed on a speeder in about 3 to 4 minutes. And listen kids, back in my day, every video game had one planet and it was planet Earth. And we just accepted that. And yeah, it can take 3 to 4 minutes to cross each planet with a speeder, but also it's a speeder. Those things are fast. I think the planet sizes are just fine. And if you make your planets too big, you end up with just a bunch of empty space, and then it's just big for the sake of being big. So what were you expecting? No Man's Sky? No Man's Sky already exists. You can go play No Man's Sky. But to be fair, there were some valid complaints. Like how IGN called this the first open world Star Wars game. I don't know about you, but the Jedi games felt pretty open world to me. And Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga exists. Does that not count? Also, the minimum requirements for the PC port are extremely high. And I'm right there with you on this one. I shouldn't need a NASA supercomputer to be able to play this video game. Even though I was given a free copy to review, I still requested it on PlayStation because I am not going to fiddle with the specs. And the price point is always going to be a conversation. And as well it should be. $70 games becoming the norm is already pretty annoying, but then also having a $110 version and a $130 version is just too much. And not only that, they're trying to push their subscription service for $18 a month. Nobody is buying this. Gaming subscriptions don't work, except for Xbox Game Pass. That one's fine. But coming from somebody who has played the whole game and has no reason to lie to you, I would genuinely price this game at about $50. It took me 16 or so hours to get through the story while also doing some of the side activities, and there's a ton more to do even after that. So if you ever see this on sale for like $50 or less, you know at least then you're getting some value out of it. There was also some complaints about the movement, like how the sliding seems slow and stiff. And you know what? Yeah, it is. But also you don't use it that much, so you don't even notice. So it's such a minor complaint that I almost forgot to mention it in this video. So with all of that being said, I think I discovered what the one major flaw of this game is. And that's the marketing. And the bad lip sync, but mostly the marketing. All of the tweets and early footage weren't really highlighting what made this game good. And with the high price points and higher system requirements, a lot of the public decided they hated it before they even played it. It was actually IGN's footage of an NPC not shooting back that got people to call out the bad AI. I don't know, maybe reviewers should turn up the difficulty too. But as we all know, you can't make games too hard for reviewers. I mean, you saw what happened to that one guy who played Cuphead. And then there's also articles being written about how Ubisoft isn't going to acknowledge the backlash of social media, which is in turn acknowledging the backlash of social media. But also, some people are just misogynists. But when I isolated myself to just the game, I didn't feel any of that. Building my own opinions from my own experience, I just don't have those same complaints. So it's insane to think that the one thing that potentially could hurt this game was the people trying to promote it all along. And if you hate me for saying that it's a good game, that's absolutely fine. You have every right to hate my review, just like I have every right to like this game. But I think we can all agree though to not trust IGN anymore, am I right? And you can pet the animals, so by default, that makes it a good game. I don't make the rules here. So hopefully you enjoyed this early look and review. And if you like this type of video, I basically did the same thing for every single Lego game, and it's almost 4 hours long, and you can check that out up here. And if you're just here to hate on the game because it's like woke or whatever, you still made it to this part of the video, so a like and a subscribe is still appreciated. So thanks for watching, and subscribe, it would be so funny. And also Ubisoft, if you're watching this, please send me a key for Assassin's Creed. I would love to rip into that game, play that game too. Okay, thank you for watching, goodbye.